Load shedding reloaded. Eskom commences with load shedding in parts of the country tonight on the back of ongoing industrial action. We'll ask them, should we brace for blackouts and tariff hikes this winter? An attack on a mosque in Malmesbury leaves 2 worshippers and the attacker dead. This is eNews at 8. I'm Sally Burdett. Good evening. Well, Eskom is fighting to keep the lights on. This is workers' fight for an increase. Thousands of its employees picketed today, rejecting the company's decision not to give increases. Now, as Heidi Jokos reports, the power utility has done a U-turn and reopened wage discussions.
Thousands of unhappy Eskom employees made it loud and clear that they want their demands met outside Megawatt Park. Workers say it's not their fault the power utility is in debt. After receiving the memorandum, Eskom changed its approach.
Eskom has decided to reopen wage negotiations. The power utility previously said it has no money for bonuses or wage increases this year.
We do note the memo that you are giving to us, and we're committing that we'll reopen the negotiations. Thank you so much.
The big question remains as to where money will now be found. Eskom is over 350 billion rand in the red. Minister of Public Enterprises Pravin Gordhan says the government fiscus is unable to bail out SOEs continuously. Unions say workers have struck by Eskom and should not be the ones to suffer.
We are going to fight this new board, this CEO, and the government that is giving them the mandate to retrench thousands of workers.
Picketing is expected to continue despite Eskom being willing to go back to wage talks.
We have started the picketing, and then the picketing will continue until the wage negotiation has completed.
Eskom has red-flagged power supply has been constrained due to the effects of the protest action. Over 4 power stations have been affected to a point where coal has not been delivered due to safety concerns. Heidi Jokos, Johannesburg.
Yes, and Eskom has announced that load shedding is with us again, advising earlier this evening the grid is constrained. We're joined now on the line by Eskom spokesperson Khulu Phasiwe. Good evening, Mr. Phasiwe. Thank you so much for joining us. Is the load shedding a direct result of today's industrial action?
Indeed, the load shedding that we are seeing now is a direct result of what has been happening during the day. So essentially what we have communicated earlier on is that our power system already from about 9 o'clock, it became severely constrained. This is after many of the technicians and other people who work at power stations were blocked from entering the power station. And also the people who are delivering coal into our power stations were also blocked. So generally there has been a sense of chaos at our power stations, which has culminated in this implementation of stage 1 load shedding.
Where am I to read from that? If the negotiations are successful and you manage to reach agreement and the picketing stops, does that mean there will be no more load shedding this winter?
If the situation improves, then we will marshal all our forces to make sure that we continue to keep the lights on. So, unlike 2008 and 2014, this load shedding is not a function of our machines breaking down or anything of that sort. This time around, it's merely because our own people who have been given the responsibility of running the stations, some of them have been acting, I would say, in a very unusual way of sabotaging our own systems and also obviously preventing and intimidating other people from doing their job.
Right, so what you're telling us is that if you manage to solve this wage deadlock, we should be fairly certain there won't be ongoing load shedding this winter. However, are we facing power hikes again this year? Just today, NERSA said it's going to allow you to recoup some of your losses. The question, of course, is where on earth are you going to get any money to offer increases? Eskom's been saying repeatedly we cannot afford this, but you're back at the negotiating table.
Well, as far as tariffs are concerned, for the current financial year, we already have a 5.2% tariff increase, which we are challenging, by the way, in court. But the decision that was made by the regulator today, the regulator had indicated, among other things, that they are going to make a pronouncement at some point They will give us a record of decision about what were the reasons for them giving Eskom half of what Eskom had required. Because remember, in terms of our RCA application or the regulatory clearing account application, we had requested 66 billion rand. They have given us about half of it, which is just over 32 billion rand. So
sorry to rush you, Mr. Pasiwe, we're running out of time. Will we have more increases this year or maybe only next year?
Well, we will hear from the regulator.
Thank you very much, Eskom spokesperson Kulu Pasiwe. Well, a shocking early morning attack on a mosque in the western Cape town of Malmesbury has left the community reeling. 2 men were stabbed to death while observing itikaf, a religious solitude period in the last days of Ramadan. The suspect then fled on foot. He was shot dead by police meters from the mosque. Our reporter Optimum spoke to members of the Muslim community after the attack.
The community of West Bank is reeling the death of 2 of its members that were stabbed to death inside the mosque behind us. The Muslim Judicial Council has spoken out about this tragic incident. They've urged people not to rush to speculate about the motive behind this incident. Here is what they had to say.
We still ask our people, call our people for calmness and let the police do its work. The motives of the killing unacceptable, but we don't know what the motives are.
President Cyril Ramaphosa has also sent his condolences to the family members of the deceased.
We received a call from the state president. He did express his concern. He wanted to understand what had happened. The president, on behalf of the government, is expressing our sincere condolences to the Muslim community, but also the entire community of Malmesbury on the senseless killings.
2 survivors in this incident will be crucial in determining the exact cause behind the stabbing of the 2 people inside the mosque. The Hawks and the iPad will be investigating the cases respectively. The Hawks will be looking at the incident particularly pertaining the stabbing of the 2 people inside the mosque, and iPad would be looking into the incident where a policeman shot the suspect as a result of him not handing himself over when police arrived at the scene. Tim Tongana, Malmesbury in the Western Cape.
Meanwhile, National Police Commissioner Ketla Sitole says it's too early to draw a link between the recent Verulam mosque attack, in which 1 person died, and today's attack in Malmesbury. A victory today at the Constitutional Court for survivors of sexual assault. There's no longer a time limit on when you can report the crime. The Constitutional Court has upheld a ruling by the South Gauteng High Court that a victim of sexual violence can report the crime at any time after the attack. Until today's decision, rape was the only sexual offence that had no statute of limitation. Now, all sexual offences are to be treated in the same way. Today's ruling relates to a case dating back to the 1970s. In 2012, 8 people accused prominent businessman Sidney Frankel of molesting them when they were children. Frankel died last year. The Constitutional Court has given Parliament 2 years to amend the relevant sections of the Criminal Procedures Act. After the break, Optimum mine workers will head back to work tomorrow after business rescue practitioners and employers agree to pay salaries. The family of the 10-year-old girl allegedly imprisoned and sexually abused by her stepfather has been traced. KwaZulu-Natal's Social Development Department tracked down her extended family to Stanger in the north of the province. Meanwhile, the man who's accused of abusing the little girl appeared in court today. Tubi Vilani reports from Verulam.
The suspect appeared before a packed court with bruises and scars all over his body. He was still struggling to walk and could barely talk after being assaulted by community members. The 44-year-old allegedly held his 10-year-old stepdaughter captive for months. It's believed she was sexually abused and prevented from going to school. Neighbors raised the alarm on Sunday after the child managed to tell them about her ordeal. The young victim is being looked after at a place of safety. It's believed the child had been living with her stepfather after her mother died 5 years ago. Social workers have now located her maternal grandparents in nearby Stenga.
We have conducted an investigation, firstly, whether the child is safe, and we have discovered that the child has been removed to a safe place, which is a place of safety that is registered.
Hundreds of community members picketed outside the court, demanding that the suspect not be released on bail.
It's an insult to men. So we have to come here and defend the man, because at the end we see this isn't just an animal. We cannot say he's a man.
The rape cases number has rise up in nowadays, and we're coming to say that this has to come to a stop. It has to come to an end.
The case has been adjourned for the 25th of June for a formal bail application. Tubavilane, Verulam, KwaZulu-Natal.
Operations at Optimum coal are to resume tomorrow. The Gupta-owned mine has been placed under business rescue and workers have not been paid. But now, as Slindele Masikane reports, those trying to save the mine have reached an agreement with the workers.
Umastandi basihlukumeza bafuna imali zabo, abantwana bafuna esikolweni, asinakudla, asinafo.
Abantu abethu balambile for 2 months, asinamali nokubhadala ezikolweni.
Frustrated and desperate. This is how the more than 2,000 workers who haven't been paid since April are feeling. The workers have shut down the mine in order to force management to pay them. A standoff between the police and miners led to several workers being arrested for public violence.
I think from tomorrow it's going to be worse if these employees from Optimum also not being paid their bonuses. Because we've got a bonus that is due tomorrow, since the 15th. So maybe this crowd will be times by 4 or 3.
Optimum is obligated to supply about 400,000 tons of coal to Eskom every month. However, it hasn't done this since March. An agreement between the power utility and the mine will see it supply only half of that amount in an effort to rehabilitate itself for the next 3 months. Workers have now accepted an offer to have 50% of their May salaries paid by the rescue practitioners and the other half by the employer. This means miners will be back underground on Friday. Slindele Masikane, Hendrina in Mpumalanga.
Reminding you of your main stories now. Eskom's commenced with load shedding in parts of the country as a direct result of today's industrial action and picketing. An attack on a mosque in Malmesbury leaves 2 worshippers and the attacker dead. Now, we had a ball when we hosted the World Cup in 2010. This time, it's in Russia, but don't stress. You can still feel like a local if you learn the lingo. Here's Michael Marilia with a survival guide to the World Cup.
If you can't get to the World Cup, you'll have to fake it till you make it. Every fan wants victory, and in Russian, that's pobyeda. Defeat is a forbidden word in these parts, but we'll tell you anyway. Porazhenia. Bafana aren't at the World Cup this year, but they do have a pretty cool Russian nickname. Malchiki. Now, time to get technical. If the linesman waves his flag like this, it's offsides. Or, as they say in the motherland, Vinya Igra. Of course, naughty players must be punished. Your team will face a strafne if it commits a foul in the box. And when the opposition scores, well, this phrase could come in handy. Sudja na milo. Or in English, the ref sucks. Ultimately, only one team can win the World Cup, and if you're on the losing side, well, maybe there's just one thing left to say. Prinesi vodku. Bring me some vodka.
Pobieba for Russia, indeed. From me and the team, enjoy your evening. Take care. Good night.